this is Edith Espinola, and this is the Mindset of the Millionaire Leader. It is an interview series where we get thought leaders and successful business people to share their ideas, their philosophies, and their experiences with what they've been going through by being successful and using their mindset. I'm so excited today to have Carl Battiste with us. He is the regional director for Northern California and Hawaii. He is a MAPS Bold coach. He is a, oh my God, Carl, there's so many things that you are, that it's so amazing to say, but I do want to say, and I apologize, it just went out of my head right now. But so Carl came into the real estate industry with a bang. He is Keller Williams Realty International Rookie of the Year, and he has a very successful career prior to joining real estate. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say. So welcome, Carl Battiste. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. All the great faces out there that I recognize and a couple that I don't. It's good.
Yeah, everybody's excited to have you here. So, let's just go ahead and get started. What did you do prior to joining real estate? Let's start at the very beginning.
So I spent 22 years in the consumer packaged goods industry. I worked for Colgate Palmolive, I worked for SC Johnson, and I worked for Del Monte Foods. And in each of those jobs, I was in sales as well as a director of sales. And I did some coaching and training in each of those companies as well before I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. And is that how you came into real estate? You just decided that you didn't want to do what you were doing anymore? What attracted you to actually get into real estate?
So it's interesting. I'm not going to give you the cliche line, I always loved houses, because that's not really it at all, right? I love the opportunity of being able to make income that nobody put a ceiling on, and houses happen to be one of the ways to do it. So I'm not going to tell you that I love houses. Houses are great. However, it's about the income opportunity, honestly. And I didn't realize how much more was actually available. Because when you first come into something, you know this much, right? And the longer you're in it, like a relationship,
right?
learn
Exactly.
more and more about it all the time. And so for me, it was like I showed up for these great companies, and I loved the companies I worked for the most part. However, if you guys have come out of a W-2 business or company, you know that you're asked to do X amount of work, you get X pay. And you can work your tail off, and then next year they give you a 2.6% increase, and inflation's gone up 5%, right? So you're always playing catch up on the hamster wheel to be able to really keep up. So I kind of got to the point where I just wasn't the guy that enjoyed having to work for somebody else and having somebody else control that income lid. So I started to get my license. I loved SC Johnson. I loved, Colgate Palmolive. Del Monte Foods was actually a very rough 2 years. It was the 2 years that allowed me to recognize that I needed to make a move. That's what I would say. And so I'm grateful for that awful experience, because that awful experience forced me to jump. And I went to a career coach, and the coach said to me, unless the pain of jumping is better than the pain of staying, you'll never move. And I was like, you're right. So I canceled the rest of my appointments because there wasn't enough pain. Then when there was plenty more pain associated with work, I went back. I said, okay, how do I do this?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
What do you want to do, right? So at that point, we were able to have a logical conversation. So I actually got my license while I was working for Del Monte so that I could be set up. And my goal was to wait until the end of June. And I got my license in early June. And I wanted to wait because I wanted to capture my bonus check, which was like going to be about $35,000 before I put my notice in. And something really awesome happened. I was called in on a Friday before the end of the month. And they said, hey, you have an opportunity to come and meet with us. And I was like, sure, I'll come in and meet. I said, does it have to be today? Yeah, it has to be today. I'm like, okay. So I went in and I saw the director of human resources, which never was in that office. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to fire me or what's up? So I sat down and my direct boss said to me, hey, we're going to be reorganizing and we really don't have a position for you here. However, we're hoping, and I was always that company guy that would move.
Right.
For opportunities. So they just figured this was going to be a done deal, right? We need you to move to Pittsburgh because we're going to head up our pet food division out there. And I was like, well, I'm not moving to Pittsburgh. And I'm talking Pennsylvania, California, right? So I didn't do it. And he says, well, we really need, I mean, we were kind of counting on it. I said, I know, I've never had this conversation with anybody. And I realized that when corporate changes happen, they happen fast. It's just that that's not on my radar. I'm not moving out there. We like it out here and we intend to stay here, but there's nothing. I said, okay, so what's the alternative?
Right.
And so he said, well, I'll let Lenny take you through it. And Lenny was the HR director. And that afternoon, I got a 6-month package with pay, got my bonus. I got to keep my company car for 3 months and all my medical for 6 months. Now, you want to talk about,
oh, Carl.
I waited for my bonus check and I literally got a runway of opportunity to build my real estate career. Here's the weird thing, though. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was like jobless, right?
Yeah.
It was a good thing, yet it was like, I called my wife and I said, Cindy, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
She was like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, we're okay.
Yeah. Financially, we're okay.
We're
but
good. I'm going to go and make this real estate thing happen. Well, here's what I didn't understand. And how many of you have been around since 2006 in real estate? So you remember what it looked like in 2007. Well, when I left the company, it was 2007.
Oh,
so
wow.
We're a real estate career that is like an industry that's on its kind of the fast downward slam, right? I didn't know any better. I had no clue. I didn't know anything. I thought, whatever is rough will just be over in a couple months. And of course, this turned into the great housing crisis and the recession and all that. Well, I didn't know better. And sometimes it's better to not know better. And the example is this.
Yes.
I went to Mega Camp and Kristen White had me go to Mega Camp. And I said, well, I said, this is for mega agents, right? She goes, yeah, but, and I was like, 0% of zero is not mega, right? It's zero.
Right.
She goes, yeah, but I think you need to go because I think you got the energy and the drive to do this. So I went and I sat in the front row where as far up as you could get. And I listened to Gary because when I worked with S.C. Johnson, we were a private company. In fact, you've probably seen advertisements that say S.C. Johnson, a family company. So very much like KW, we were not public. So it was very, very, the culture was very tight. So I listened to him and all I needed was that 3 hours. I could have flown home from Austin and started my career. Of course, I stayed there 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is. I came back and I started knocking on doors because I needed a database. We're not from California.
Right.
Out to California for the job with with S.C. Johnson, right? So anyway, I started knocking on doors, and Edith, I knocked on doors 4 hours a day for 18 months.
Wow.
From 9 to 1 every single day.
Wow, that's amazing.
Without fail. And then I was in the office, looped into the calendar. At that point, it was 411. It wasn't 3612 or it was 3612.3, and now it's Ignite, right?
Right.
So 411 was the curriculum. And I would be in the market center for the courses, and then I would be out implementing. I got a listing, and then I got another listing, and then I got another listing. And it was funny because, when you're new, you all know what this feels like, right? You get a listing, and it's kind of like the bird that sits on the nest. It's like, this is my egg, right? I'm going to do everything I have to take care of that egg. I knew exactly how many flyers left the box. Because that's all I had. And it was funny because I was so involved with marketing that listing. My second call was from a guy said, hey, we drive around the neighborhood. He goes, and we noticed that your boxes are always full. I only have one.
Right.
Because and we see your open house signs everywhere, and we get your flyers. He goes, we want to list our house. And I was like, Gulp, this is crazy. His perception, though, was that I was everywhere. And of course, I wasn't. And so my business started to take off because I was just kind of focused on winning. And my big why was really hot, Edith. I had an at-home mom, 2 kids, house payment, 2 cars.
Oh, yeah.
No more 6-figure career with a company car, blah, blah, blah. I had to build that.
Right, right. Well, that sounds awesome. So it sounds like, your big why was to provide for your family, and going to Mega Camp and hearing Gary speak. Now, isn't it amazing to actually hear Gary speak? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. What's interesting that you asked that is a lot of people ask what it was like working for corporate giants like Keller or like S.C. Johnson and Colgate-Palmolive. Here's the interesting thing, and if you've been in a corporation before, a big corporation before, you understand this. We would go to our national conventions, and there would be 10,000 people in an auditorium, and the CEO would fly in and do a 30-minute speech. The president would do a 40-minute speech, and those guys, gals were on a plane, and they were gone.
Yes.
It was a sales meeting, so they were gone. They did their... In our company, it's really, we are almost like silver spoon children. When we go to Austin for Mega Camp or somewhere for family reunion, our executive leadership team lives, eats, and works among us for 4 days. It's such a different feeling when you have leadership really engaged in what you're doing versus you're just an employee in sales. I come in and deliver the vision, then I'm off to do whatever. So It's pretty cool. And even now as an RD, I get to be with Gary in our RD meetings once a month, sometimes twice a month. And I'll tell you, I have notebooks full. I just can't get enough of the wisdom that he puts in during those 30 days before the next meeting. And then we sit there, and if you ask some of our RDs, they'll tell you that he doesn't usually keep his agenda. Once you give Gary a flip chart and a marker, it's over, right? And so we sit there and graph notes and notes and notes, and it's genius because it just rolls out of his mouth in such a powerful way. And most people don't understand how fortunate we are to have that close of a connection with our leadership.
Right, absolutely. So I'm one of the Quantum Leap instructors for young adults.
Yep.
And so I'm spoiled. Gary, that's Gary's pet project. So we get to hear him speak often, and he trains us, and he is like true brilliance. And I just think everybody who listens to him, they really gain, these wonderful seeds of wisdom. So do you remember, Carl, what it was that he said that encouraged you to go out and door knock 4 hours a day and to get all those listings that resulted in you being the international rookie of the year, right? Like, what was it that just sparked you?
And it's funny, this is not rehearsed, just so you know. It's right at the tip of my tongue, and I can tell this story the rest of my life. When Gary Keller stood on, it was 2007, and he said, we are in a shifted market, meaning we just came off an incredibly accelerated market to it's crash and burn mode right now because of the bank issues and the savings and loan crash and all that.
All the REOs and
stuff, right? And so he said, we are in a shifted market. And he said, if you do not have an escrow, or if you do have an escrow, there's only one thing that you need to be doing. This was before the one thing even was published. You need to be lead generating every day to find your next closed transaction, because we've gone from inventory like this to inventory like this, and we haven't yet lost the realtor pool. So we have a realtor pool that is used to working inventory like this, and the pools like this. Now we have inventory like this and a pool like this, which means that if you don't and this was before it all tapered off, people quit. What it means is that there's less houses to go around. And the mindset back then, of course, I didn't know because I wasn't in it more than 10 minutes, right? was, oh my God, this is going to crash. I need to get out. I need to go find something to do. I need to get a real job. And the people that were actually dedicated to their real estate career were having great business upticks, because as people are departing, they were the ones getting all of that volume in that small market. So I kept that in my head was, all I need to do is keep looking. You know, I'll look under rocks. I'll go anywhere. I'll find that next transaction. And I found them all in a 2,100 home geography. What I didn't know is that 48% of that business would be short sales for the next 3 years. And what I realized is that short sales weren't short, they were long, and it take forever, especially then because the industry didn't know how to handle them.
Right.
And they paid the same kind of money.
Right.
So I have a choice. Either I quit and go work for Target,
Right.
or go beg for my job back at Del Monte, which I was not interested in doing, or I up my activity so that I can, it's either I work harder or I take a pay cut.
Right.
Harder,
Right.
smarter, or a pay cut. So I opted for the harder, smarter.
Right.
And then when you come out of the other side of that, Edith, and I'll shut up.
Okay.
When I come out of the other end, because I know you're supposed to be interviewing me.
No, this is great.
You know you're in trouble when you ask me to be on your talk show, right?
I know.
When you come out on the other side of this, your market share is way up here because the market goes like this again, and all those people that left are gone. So you have this much real estate agents vying for this much listings.
Right.
And then what happens, everybody? Everybody goes and gets their license again.
Right.
The problem with that is it sometimes takes, for somebody who's not really dedicated, it can take 18 months to get traction. So that 18-month window when there's only this much competition is the time that your share really grows.
Right, right. And no, this is great, Carl. This is why I've asked you to be here, because everything is words of wisdom. So, so we're in a shifted market right now. And, because we have to practice social distancing, we're concerned about going out and door knocking or, handing out any kind of flyer or anything like that. So what do you suggest agents do now to take advantage of the shift, make a name for themselves and go out and get business? How do you recommend that they do that?
So there's still telephones, right? And we still have a database. If you have a database, now's the time to lean into your database. And your database, it doesn't have to be, hey, Sophia, this is Carl Battiste, haven't talked to you in 6 months. Are you looking to buy or sell? It can be simple as, hey, Sophia, it's Carl Battiste, just checking in on you. I know it's been the craziest 6 months of everybody's life, and I'm going through my database and I'm calling to see how everybody's doing. If there's anything you might need, we call it a care call. And I don't bring up real estate. 9 times out of 10, Sophia's going to say, what's going on in the market with all this? So she invites that conversation so I can have a light conversation. If she brings the conversation to a heavier discussion, I can take it there. If she doesn't bring it up at all, that's okay. Because here's what I know. I bet you Sophia's insurance agent, her banker, her veterinarian, her doctor, or her dentist haven't called her for a care call.
Right.
And how cool it would be to know that my realtor called, though, and you didn't ask about business.
Right.
You just called to say hi. And then I call her back again. And then at some point, I can have the dialogue. So press into your database more now than ever, because what's going to happen is the market will shift and it will come back, and it will shift and it will come back. It's cyclical. And Gary, I'll type this one, and I'll go back to some of these questions on the quotes. This is a quote that I love that Gary asked us as RDs to bring back to our region. I love this. This is the question you ask.
Now, I know that, for you, especially being a bold coach, scripts are really important and everything. So I love this. So do you want to read out loud what your quote is, Carl?
Are you in this, it's Gary's, right? Are you in the business for a year or for a career?
That really makes you look.
What it does is, in a year is a short game.
Mm-hmm.
Or a career is a long game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big difference, right? Because when I'm looking at the long game, it's okay if I make mistakes. It's okay if I fall down. It's okay if I backtrack to go forward because I'm looking at the long game.
Right.
If it's a short game, then I have to accomplish everything in a very small window. And what's the likelihood that I'm going to nail everything in a very short window?
It's low.
It's just not. I mean, think of a football game. If I have to win the game in the last 6 minutes of the game, all of my skill and effort has to be packed into that 6 minutes. However, if I have 4 quarters and I chip away at the long game, it's okay if
Mm-hmm.
I make a mistake here and there. I can't make a mistake in the last 4 minutes of the game
Right. So I'm
because
glad that you talk about mistakes. Right. I'm glad that you talk about mistakes
sure,
because, so what are your thoughts on failure?
poster child, right? Seriously though, I mean, you have to fail. In fact, I hate to keep quoting MREA or Gary, but it's true. And he says if you don't fail enough, you're not trying hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to have a lot of no's. No's are part of our job. Here's the difference. A lot of people see no as failure. No is really just a statistic saying the more no's I get, the closer to the yes I get.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not getting any no's, though, that means I'm not doing enough phone calls or talking to enough people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so failure, though, is where I have made the mistake of doing something I thought was right, or I wouldn't listen to somebody's wisdom who's already been there before,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I go down my path and realize that I fall off the bike. And yet, when you're a kid, when you fall off your bike, do you throw the bike in the trash or do you get back on the bike?
Yeah, get right back on.
Right. And how many times do you still fall sometimes in that first week that you're learning to ride the bike?
Right.
So you have a choice. I can throw the bike away, or I can endure the scraped knee and the scraped pinky finger and all that stuff. In a few days, though, I'll be riding with no hands
Right.
because I got that core balance thing down and, it all works. So I love the expression push through the pain
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes new or something different is pushing through pain. And that kind of pain doesn't necessarily mean a scrape.
Mm-hmm.
However, it could be an ego scrape.
Mm-hmm.
It could also just be the light bulb goes on in a way that I've been circling it and never would look at it because I'm so close-minded.
Right. Right.
Sometimes we stand in the way of ourselves. I'm sure that you've all felt that way before, right?
Yeah,
I
that
have,
we're in our own way.
yeah. Don't we ever do that, right? I have where's this quote that let's see if I'm a quotes guy.
Me too. I
And as
love
a
quotes.
coach, I use them all the time. I am confined only by the walls I build around me.
Yes. So true, right? So true because we have control over how we face the world,
Yep,
right? And that brings us to mindset.
it does.
Yeah. And so I know, I mean, every time I talk with you, Carl, you have this great outlook on life, this great way of looking at business. And, I love that you started off so earnestly in your career and that, you have Epic Properties Group. And for 2 years in a row, you guys were the top producers for the whole region. So what you started and created in the very beginning, you just kept growing, and congratulations on that success.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing. You're
We
welcome.
still have a team. I'm not in production anymore, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
However, my team is. If I
Mm-hmm.
went back into production, I'd get right back on that bicycle and go right to the top again because it's
Mm-hmm.
how I think.
Right, right.
I don't like having anybody in front of me where I can't see, right?
Right. So, with you being so successful and your team being so successful and you being a coach and now you're the regional director, what is it? Are there certain traits that you see in agents that you could tell that they're going to be successful right away? Do you have that ability to see that? And what would those be?
Well, it's funny. So I don't know as if it's 100% true. Nothing is, right?
Right?
However, here's what I would say. and I'm going to type the quote in here. Another GK quote, not mine.
I love it.
Gary says talent shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And what he means by that is talent looks for opportunity. Talent looks for a way to win. Talent sees a wall and says, I have to get over it. I'm either going to climb it, break it, go around it, climb under it. Whatever it is, I'm getting over that wall. Non-talent looks for a way to say, I can't, and then justifies the reason why I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I always do. When I interviewed and hire people on my team, so let's say, Anna Maria, I'm interviewing you, and I've had this before. I've had people on my team come in and I'd meet them at Pete's Coffee. I'm a Pete's Coffee fan. That's why the employees gave me a Pete's hat and a Pete's mask. Only the employees get those, right?
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
I'm a Starbucks person, and I got stuff like that too. So go ahead.
So anyway, I would go in there and people would say, I would interview and I'd say, hey, Anna Maria, I know this isn't you because you're here, you're learning based. I'd say, how are you? What brings you here today? Well, I want to get back into real estate. And I was like, tell me a little bit about your real estate career. Well, I got into the business and I had a pretty good time on the team. And then the recession hit and I got out of real estate because everybody was getting out of real estate, and I went and got another job, and now it's time to get back in. What that tells me is you're a fair weather girl or a fair weather guy. You're good as long as the market's good. What happens, though, if I invest a lot of money in you, Carlos, and you take a nosedive on me when the market starts to go down? I need people that are committed not to the market, they're committed to their families and their big why. Because chances are, Anna Maria, I don't know you personally. However, my guess is that you don't do this for a hobby because you're independently wealthy and have nothing else to do, right? I don't. Maybe you are. I want to be your kid if that's the way it is. Yet most of us have a big why, which means I do it for a reason. For me, it's my kids in college, retirement, vacations. So I get out of bed no matter what the market looks like because that doesn't change. My big why never changes. It's kind of like if ever on a plane and there's thunderstorms, the pilot goes around, the destination remains the same though.
Right.
He doesn't say, okay, everybody, instead of landing in London today, we're going to land in Paris. You just have to figure out how to get there yourself. Right. It doesn't happen that way. The destination should always be the same. The journey changes. So when I look at people looking to get in, you can kind of see people that are destination driven rather than a career for a year. It shows up. They're learning based. Right? They show up for classes. Right. They show up for coaching. They show up for anything that can change them or help them build. They're in the team meetings. They understand the curriculum. Yes. They know the models, and they never get enough.
Right.
And they recognize that the mistakes are part of the win.
Right.
You've got to be okay falling flat on your face. You have to be, or else you don't learn.
Right.
Falling flat on your face is the best way to learn.
Right. I have found that to be true. So I'm the productivity coach for Los Gatos and Carmel. And I always tell people when we first start working together, let's figure out what your big why is, because when you know the destination, like you said, right, the destination doesn't change. The path could, or the journey brings up different things. But once you know what your destination is, then you do everything that you can to get there. And I love that you say, you know, that you talk about mistakes, because I personally believe that, you know, making mistakes or having failure is just an event. It's not a definition of who we are, right? And so if people fail, it gives us the opportunity to stop and look and see what was successful, and then figure out and be creative and see what would be like version 2.0, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so then,
Edith, that's why I type in here, your activities need to be attached to your big why and nothing else.
Right.
That's why when Gary says don't be attached to the outcome, because the outcome will fall apart sometimes. How many of you ever had an escrow that you just knew was going to close, and then within 72 hours, it was a mess, dissolved, and gone, and there was no paycheck? It's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
So don't be attached to the outcome, be attached to the process of getting there. And that's why I love this. Your activities need to be attached to your big why, or otherwise you just have a to-do list.
Right.
Right? People think it's work and it's play, or it's work and it's family. They feed each other. I work for the purpose of having that great life. Right? So if my work and my activities don't support my lifestyle, then I'm not building that life by design that we coach to in the bold room.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have a to-do list, other people have a choose to have list.
Oh, that's
Can I walk you through a really quick script, and I'll let you get back to your questions?
Oh yeah, no, this is fun. Go ahead.
So Edith, here's something I used to tell myself when I door knock, and I still do it now when I'm recruiting or looking for team leaders or whatever it is. Let's say, because right in front of me, I've got Kim, I've got you, Edith, I have Seba, I have Maria, Sophia. So I have everybody in the line. If I'm knocking on your door, Kim, and I say, hey, my name's Carl Battiste, and I'm with Keller Williams, Danville. That's where I hang my license, blah, 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 blah. And Kim says, you know what? Thanks. I got a realtor, and closes the door. Does that happen? It happens.
Yeah, and
right?
she's mean like that.
Right, and she's mean. So then I knock on your door, Edith, and you're like, yeah, we just moved in. We're not going to make a move for a long time. Thank you so much for stopping. Door closes. Carlos, you knock on the door, and I knock on the door, same thing. CB, same thing, right? So all this stuff happens. A lot of people will come back at the end of the day and say, I spent all afternoon out in the hot sun or whatever, and I don't think I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not fun, right? And yet, if we recognize that this is part of winning rather than part of losing, the loser is the person that doesn't go out.
Right.
The winner is the person that gets the rejection. Now, I know that you're saying, how do I get that in my head? Here's how you get it in your head. So if I get to Morella's door and Morella says, oh my God, this is perfect timing. We were just looking to buy an investment property and I don't really know anybody here. Those are always great. And that does happen when you knock on doors.
You know, I would say that.
Yes, I know you would, right? So all of a sudden, where's my focus? On the nose or on Morella's yes?
On Morella's yes.
Right. I can go home now and forget the no's. In fact, I don't even remember them anymore, right? Because Morella said yes. And here's what I know. If my big why is taking my family on a Mediterranean cruise, Morella's the one that's going to help fund it. Kim's not, CB's not, Anna Maria's not, Sophia's not. So what I do now is I go into that same place and I say, hey, Kim, blah, blah, blah. Kim slams the door. Edith, no, I got an agent. So you know what I do in my head when the door closes? That's okay. Edith, Kim, CB, they're just not ready or willing yet to fund my cruise. I need to find somebody that will fund my cruise. Now, don't say that to the person at the door because they'll think you're wacko and they'll call 911, right? In reality, though, that's what has to happen. It's not that Kim's not a nice person. Her dog could have pooped all over her new white carpet, and she's not in a good mood today. Mm-hmm. I can't receive her feedback as rejection. So I go home, get in bed, get on Facebook, right? Get make some chicken soup and lick my wounds. I got to go find the Morellas. Mm-hmm. And after 6 months, I have found all 7 of my Morellas, mm-hmm. and I book my cruise and I pay for it, and I don't even feel the pain anymore from CB's no. Mm-hmm. So if you focus on what you focus on expands. If I focus on the negative, then I'm going to feel the negative. So I have to look at lead generating as a pool of people out there, and all I need to do is find the yeses. And because nobody has yes or no on their head, I have to filter through them like a deck of cards. Mm-hmm. So when you have a choose to-do list, I choose to go on a cruise, so I'm going to go find those people that will fund my cruise. I'm not focused anymore on the people that say, no, don't leave your junk on my porch, never come back. I don't care about those people. Great, next.
I love that, Carl. That's awesome.
To like me. I don't care, right? I'm present to her totally. I've had plenty of mean people that were not nice that called months later to sell. Okay, on the outside sphere, I want you to write, or in the big sphere on the outside, I want you to write a sphere of no control.
What?
Sphere of no control.
Sure.
On the middle size loop on the diagram, I want you tiny little one in the middle. I want you to write sphere of control. Because in our day-to-day world,
Sorry, what's the last one?
sphere of control.
Sphere
Of control.
of
I'm
control.
putting the chat box also for you, CB. So when you think about our day, how many of us spend a lot of time in that outer ring? And we worry about things in the outer ring, the appraisal, the inspection, the lender, the inventory, the weather, the virus. Those are things we can't control. And the more time we spend in that sphere, the less time we can spend in the inner two. Now, I can't force a buyer to buy a house, correct? Can I influence them? Of course, by my negotiation skills, by helping them understand the market, et cetera, et cetera. And then the control in the middle, the small one, what can I control?
My own doing.
Okay, what I do every single day, how I choose to think, the words I choose. Now, can I influence the thought that comes in?
Yes.
Yes, I can, and I also can't, right? Sometimes a thought comes in. It's how I respond to that thought that I can control, correct? Because I'm driving down the road, Anna Maria, and somebody cuts me off. What's the first thought that comes in my head?
Anger.
Okay, so if I respond, though, the way I know that I should, I pull back and I respond correctly. And I don't like the word, I like the word respond versus react. React seems like more knee-jerk. Respond is I have a chance to think about my action. So spend more time in those middle circles.
So the middle one, the little one is the sphere of control?
That's correct. And I did type them in the chat box. You have sphere of no
Oh, got it. Yeah. Sphere of control. Yeah.
Sphere of no influence and sphere of control. Spend as much time in the middle and the rest of your time in the influence, and you can't worry about the outside because the outside will never be in your control or never in your influence. Can't control the weather, can't control the fires, can't control interest rates, can't control any of that.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome. Edith.
I love that, Carl. Thanks for going into lesson mode when I got kicked off of the internet. I so appreciate that.
I'm never at a lack of words for those of you that know me.
No, we
I
wouldn't
know.
do that.
I wasn't stressing. I was just like trying to get back on. And when I came on, of course, you were like, doing a lesson, which was awesome. I love it.
All part of it, though, right? It's all
Yeah.
part of get up every day to win.
Yeah.
Winning, like Vince Lombardi, if you know your football history, Green Bay, winning isn't a sometime thing. It's an all the time thing.
Right.
Now, I realize we don't always win. His mindset was about winning. It wasn't about, well, maybe this time I'll ease my foot off the gas.
Right.
His mindset was, your mindset is winning is an all the time thing. So I should get up every day to win. Not that you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Your mindset's not there, though. You're in a worse place to achieve it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you have met a lot of agents in your career because you've been a bold coach, because you've been in the region for so long. And, I'm sure people come and ask you, Carl, what do you think I should do to be successful? And you've given us a lot of tips, a lot of ideas, and a lot of advice on what it is to do that we need to do. Is there something that's like your favorite piece of advice to give, or your most common piece of advice on someone who comes up and says, Carl, I want to be so successful that, I'm killing it. What would you recommend that I do?
Okay, I'm going to type it first.
Okay.
Starts right there. everything in the world starts there. Exercise, diet, right? Whatever it is, a hobby, if you want to learn a language, if you want to take courses that a musical instrument, every single thing starts there. If your head is not in the game 100%, then it just goes down from there, right? You're either 90% in the game, 80% in the game, 70%. So if you're saying, Edith, that I want to be the most phenomenal real estate agent where I can win the MREA award and do 2.5 million in GCI, I want to be the whatever it is, black belt team leader, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to have your game you have to have your head 100% in the game. So we ask the question, what does that mean? I can't be perfect. And that's where people go right away, is I can't be perfect, where nobody's asking you to be perfect. Having your head 100% in the game means that my mindset needs to be right. And even when I make a mistake, I know how to respond to keep my head in that space. Think about sports. Think about all the sports people, right, that you know. Do you think the famous basketball players ever missed baskets?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The quarterbacks got sacked all the time. And they got better because of it. Here's the difference, though. The best quarterbacks in the world never got their head out of the game, even when they were flat on their back because 17 people rushed in and tackled them. They still got up saying, we're going to win the game.
Right.
So the winning mindset it's all up here. In fact, we learn in Bold that 90% of success in real estate is mindset, 10% is skill.
Right.
And this is how we know this. Edith, how long does it take you to write an offer?
Well, gosh, I don't know, a few minutes now.
How long does it take you to write a listing, CB?
CB, did you hear?
Yeah.
A few minutes, like half an hour.
How long does it take you to write, Josh, how long does it take you to do a counter offer? If it's average type of transaction.
10, 15 minutes.
10, 15 minutes. How difficult is our job in terms of the actual function?
Not hard.
It's really not very hard. It's not rocket science. The rocket science is getting through my head. True? Because I don't want to make the phone call because I have stories that I tell myself. I can't do this in that neighborhood because I have stories. If I'm from another country, my story is I don't speak English good enough to do it. And yet there are some people, my family's from Italy, so I live this one all the time. My mom was always, I have such a heavy accent. I said, Mom, people love you. They don't care about your accent. In fact, part of it is the endearment is your accent.
Absolutely.
You see it the other way, right? So sometimes I feel like I'm first generation. I need to put on my Italian accent. People will listen with me. So
what? I think so.
So in reality, it's about having your head in the game, which means that I have to have a plan and I have to be accountable. So if I'm going to be accountable and I say, Amanda, I'm going to be accountable to you. Let's say you're my coach. If Amanda cares about my growth, she's going to check first every week, not on my lead gen, where is my head? And let's face it, we all don't have perfect head space every week, do we?
Right.
So Amanda can't expect that my activities necessarily will be where she would like them to be or where I would like them to be if I'm having a bad head week. Amanda has to help me get this fixed before we get back on the path.
Right.
So success is really like Gary says, success is an inside out job.
You know, Carl, I really like how you said, get your head 100% in the game, and that it's not just business, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's relationships, it's financial, right? So the game is not just real estate. The game is the game of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a bit. And you got to think about when your head's in the game, your head in the game means this. How many of us want to make money?
Everybody should be raising their hand.
How many of us got into real estate so that you could be an average real estate agent and be an average income? No. How many of you got into real estate so that you could be your own boss? How many of you got into real estate because you like the flexible schedule? Right? How many of you got into real estate because this is an opportunity to make more money than doctors and lawyers can even make? And yet here's the funny part. Are you the best boss you've ever had? Most people say no. Are you making that unlimited amount of income, Josh, where the bank sees you bring a wheelbarrow of money in and they're like, oh, we don't have any room, Josh. Hey, you bring it next week.
Not
No?
yet.
Not
That's
yet.
right, Marella, not yet.
How many of us are enjoying the flexibility, though?
Hmm. Yeah.
Raise both hands. And that flexibility is actually the albatross in being self-employed. You can have all of it, though, if number one, your head's right. You keep a calendar. You follow. Notice I said keep. I didn't say go buy one, because you can buy the most beautiful calendar in the whole wide world and have every color in the sphere right out there. If you don't open it, it really just becomes a piece of wall art that you can frame, right? And say, look at this, I painted this calendar and I framed it. I don't keep it, I just have it, right? So
Right.
it's all about accountability to yourself first, to your clients, and staying in the game. That's really the success. Success is an inside out job. It's not the car you buy, the suit you buy, the tie you buy, the haircut you have. It's what you do in here in the end. And if it's not attached to retirement, your kids, your life, your family, vacations, whatever your big why is, it'll fizzle. It's got to, your big why has to be sizzling hot.
Yes. Yes.
get you
Get
out of
you
bed.
so excited every day to get out of bed and just be like, all right, I'm going to do it today. Right.
Yeah, Edith, somebody asked me one time about college and all that and about profit sharing, and they don't like doing profit share. And in step 6 in Bold, we always talk about profit share.
Mhm.
Here's the interesting thing. There's a lot of people out there that need our company, not for your passive income, but because they need our company. Their business would thrive here versus where they are. No education, no camaraderie. And yet a lot of times we won't talk to another agent because of the same fear that we have when we knock on a door or pick up the phone. I got to tell you this though, my kids' college, both of them are 100% paid for by profit share.
Oh,
And I
that's
got to tell you, when Mo Anderson calls that the gift,
mhm.
that is a gift. I can't go to Coldwell Banker, EXP. I can't go anywhere where I get that check every month deposited into my account. And for KW now, it's been over $1.3 billion since it started. And
Mhm.
that's there every month. And I pay tuition, I pay books, I pay housing, I pay food. And it's paid for by the owners of other market centers across the country that people happen to be in my tree. And man, I'll tell you what, people say, yeah, but doesn't it start like $20 and $25? Here's the question I always ask. Kim, if you got out of your car in Safeway and there's a $25 bill, and there was nobody else around and no car, would you just say, yeah, it's just $20? Or would you take the $20 and put it in your wallet? So if I'm going to put it in your wallet for you, even better, right?
Yeah.
So
I love
when
that.
it comes to anything in our business, it starts like this. And Gary always says, got to start small to get big.
I love it.
So
I
it's
love it.
mindset. And
I
then,
love
and then you fall in love with your success because you put your heart and soul in it.
That's beautiful, Carl. I wanted to open it up and see if anybody had any specific questions for you. Does anybody want to ask Carl a question about, business, mindset, anything?
Carl, I'm watching this program, America, on Netflix, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And they mentioned something. They said that we Americans, we make our quest a reality. So we really work on it and we want to win.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I make my quest a reality, meaning something I really want.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically another translation, Carlos, of the sign behind me.
Or the what?
Of the sign behind me.
Oh,
When
yeah.
on expands. Right. So if my quest is to, and it's so deeply etched in my desire to walk the Grand Canyon, I will walk the Grand Canyon, right? And I see that as the same thing. I make my quest a reality. And what that means is that our goals are actually thoughts that we have in advance. You actually create your wins by putting them up here first. And I think that's what you're referring to. Your quest is your desire, correct? I'm assuming that it's the same philosophy. So if my quest is to be successful, I will focus on things that make me successful. If I'm a negative person, I always see the glass half empty rather than the opportunity. It's kind of like the door knocking example I gave you. You could see it as every time I go out, I get beat up, or every time I go out, or every other time I go out, I meet somebody else that might actually fund my next vacation. So it is a quest. It's how you see it, how you draw it up, and what you focus on. That's why for us, I make my quest a reality. The thing we coach around in Bold is build some affirmations around your quest. I am a great agent. Now people say, oh, come on, I don't believe in all that rah-rah, foo-foo, I just said affirmations.
Yeah.
That all sounds too like whatever. Here's the reality though. If you listen, take a day and I want you to listen to the rhetoric of people. What do you hear? I'm clumsy. I'm stupid. I shouldn't have done that. How could I be so dumb? How could you be so dumb? Gosh, that's really stupid. People are crazy, right? I'm so dumb. How did I forget that, right? We have a lot of self-sabotage in our language. If you get rid of that out of your vocabulary, just think how awesome it would be to say, I'm not clumsy. I'm not stupid. I'm successful. So here's what I say in bold. I always use this in bold. If I were to take your personal rhetoric for a whole 6 months, okay, and I clean out everything you say that's not relevant to self-talk, so all we're capturing is your self-talk. So for 6 months, I take everything else out of the discussion and I take your self-talk and I can condense that self-talk into a sound bite. What does it sound like?
I'm a powerful agent.
Is that really what it is?
Yes.
That's great. How many of you have that same self-talk though?
So my self-talk is, oh, nobody, no, they're not gonna like me. Oh, the other agent is more experienced. I go there.
I knew I don't have enough skill. So-and-so's got a nicer car. They have a better image. They do this, they do that. They've sold more homes.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of natural for what we do though. Our self-talk is never really where it should be unless you're Carlos. I love it, Carlos. Seriously though, that's where it should be. It should be when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm a leader. I'm successful. Does it mean I'm always successful? No. However, I would rather put that in my brain than the opposite. Edith, you've been in bold a lot of times. I know Kim, you've been in bold with me. Sandy, you've been in bold with me. Morella, almost all of you have been in bold with me, right? I think all of you. And so here's what we say. Could you imagine when you get up on Tuesday morning, we open the session and we say, my name is Carl and I am bold, right?
Right.
So I want you to say to yourself right now the opposite and be really bold. Go ahead, Edith. You're Edith and you're
opposite?
Yep.
I'm Edith and I'm not bold.
Right. I mean, think about the pain in that statement.
Right.
Here's the thing though, when we self-sabotage ourselves, we don't hear all that.
Right.
It just kind of slips in because we get a little bit of it here, a little bit of it there, a little bit of it here. And yet if we condense it all together, we would listen to ourselves and say, oh my gosh, I'm like, my enemy sits between my ears.
Right.
And yet we
So
look
true.
at self-talk and we think, oh, that's so like foo-foo, positive people. They're all crazy, right?
Right.
And yet it's easy for us to hear bad news. It's
Right.
because we're conditioned to hear bad news.
Right.
Just turn the news on.
Right, exactly, right? It's like the self-talk, we're so used to the negative because that's just what we've grown up with, and that tends to be the way our culture is. And then there are people who criticize like, oh, well, the affirmations, what is that? That's not real. That's like for crazy people, or I'm not rah-rah. But no matter what it is that you're telling yourself, that is self-talk, right? And if you have the and if you have the opportunity to, be 100% in the game and you have the mindset of being successful, then which one would you choose?
Right. So I know we're up. However,
Yes.
can I share something?
Yes.
I wanna
Final
share
words of
a story.
wisdom.
Okay. I
Okay.
wanna share a story with you, or a story that I share in bold all the time. And I know, Sandy, you were with me in the last one that we did live before we went into crazy mode of everybody locked in their offices forever, right? And so you might remember the story. Have you ever, and Edith, I'll use you as my example. Have you ever been to a scary movie before?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So if you're in a scary movie and you're in theater A and you're in CG and you're in row 30, and the movie is really starting to, the intensity of the movie is starting to peak, right? What are you feeling as you sit there? It's suspense,
Fear.
scary. Okay, fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
I'm feeling the energy.
with the knife and
Yeah.
cemetery where it's dark and some scary movie, right? And
Yeah.
you're starting to go like this, and then she trips and he starts making, right? You know all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Then I'm like I'm on edge.
And what's the theater like? Everybody laughing.
Everybody's that way too. Everybody's on edge.
Their chair, right? And then all of a sudden, she's able to scale a fence. The guy falls down and he breaks his leg, and she ends up getting in the car and somebody rescues her. And what happens?
Sigh of relief.
Everybody deflates, right? The sweaty palms go away. The heartbeat starts to slow down, right? Here's the thing. You're in a movie theater, Edith. Is that really happening?
No.
No, but what happens is your brain perceives it as reality to the point where your body actually secretes adrenaline and cortisol for fight or flight.
Right.
Because your brain buys it, even though in your awareness mind, you know this isn't really happening. Next week, I do the same thing and I bring you into a comedy and you're laughing so hard that your stomach hurts.
Right.
And yet you know that you're sitting in a movie theater and this is really not real.
Right.
And then the following week, you're sitting in a sad movie and you cry your eyes out the whole movie because it's sad. It's fiction. Your brain, though, perceives exactly what you put in it.
Right.
So if I put negative in it, if I put scary in it, you're going to respond to scary. If I put sad in it, you're going to respond to sad. If I put funny, you'll respond to funny. So why is it any different when I stand at the coffee fountain and I say to Kim, oh my gosh, this is the third time that this is going to fall out of escrow. I'm never going to close this. I don't know whether it's me, maybe I'm the worst realtor and I start down the path of feeding my brain what I really don't believe. And yet what does my brain say? You're the worst realtor.
Right.
So it's so important that our self-talk, and Sandy, you put up here a book, what to say when you talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be those other things. And how many of you have kids? And how many of you have children that come home from school and say, Dad, I'm going to fail that biology test because I'm so stupid. Do you say, yes, you're really stupid?
No.
You're so stupid that you'll never pass. And I know you're stupid. So let's just decide not to go to school that day because I would almost rather save you the embarrassment of getting the F and we'll just say that you were sick. Do you tell your kids that?
Right. No.
No, you encourage your kids, and yet we talk to ourselves that way. So your head has to be 110% in the game, and you got to be honest with yourself, right? Morella says Emmett Smith was told that he was not the right body type to be a football player, never stopped him. And look at Emmett Smith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. What you say to yourself really matters. The words and the thoughts you have about yourself matter. They really, really do.
Beautiful words of
Think
wisdom,
about what
Carl.
you say to yourself.
Beautiful
Okay.
words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You know, Carl Battiste, you were amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, talking about the importance of mindset. And it's such an honor to, you know, be part of the region that you're leading us in, right?
Fun.
Yes.
I like more.
Yeah, we'll build it. We'll build it. We'll build up our profit share. We're going to build up our market share. And, you know,
Remember, there are other people out there like you who came that need to be here for our teaching, our tech, our culture. Don't be afraid. Don't let your limited mindset say that person would never come here or I'm uncomfortable talking to them. You don't have to recruit. Let your team leader do the recruiting. Share the vision though with somebody.
Yeah,
And go
share
get
the
some
vision.
profit sharing. Go get your fair share.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that
Thanks
sounds
for
great.
the invite.
Yes,
Let's
thank you
begin
so
next week.
much. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. It was a lot of fun.
It's such a pleasure to have everybody joining us today and all of those watching the recording. Thank you, Carl Battiste. And I am Edith Espinola, productivity coach at Keller Williams, Las Gatos. I want to wish you a beautiful day. Remember, what you focus on expands, and you too can be a millionaire leader. Have a beautiful
Awesome.
day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have
you,
a
guys.
great one.
Bye.
Bye.